So Sheila, the craft beer cellar is located on Main Street in Plymouth, and in case you're wondering, they are having a advent calendar.
What does that mean?
You know what an advent calendar is?
Oh.
So,
should I?
Yeah, it's a calendar that you keep track of the days leading up to Christmas. So on the first day of December, you open up a door, mark out
I
the
do
day,
know
and
what
you
those
keep-
are.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So they're doing a craft beer advent calendar. So there are 24 individually wrapped beers. So so every day leading up to Christmas, you unwrap a beer, you have beer to drink, and when you run out of beer, it's
Hold on, how do I be part of that?
How do you be part of that? Well, you go to the craft beer cellar.
I
You
need
get one.
to. Are you kidding
They
me?
are $75, and they'll be available through the end of the month. Yeah.
I'm sold.
Of course you are. It's a great idea. They did it last year, and they said they sold a ton, and they made up a bunch this year. So you can go
They're
down.
on Main Street. I'm very familiar with the bars on Main Street.
Well, you know where T-Bones is.
Yes.
Directly across the street is Main Street and
Very
Percy's.
familiar.
Yep. So there's Main Street, there's Percy's, and then right next door to Percy's is the craft beer cellar.
Oh my god, I'm going.
Yeah. See. You
And how late are they open?
They're open till 10 o'clock. 10 to 10.
You don't put pressure on me. Don't let me forget.
I won't. I will bug you repeatedly and our listeners.
Oh.
So
You do that enough already.
The advent calendar is $75 for 24 beers, individually wrapped and numbered, so you can drink your way to Christmas.
That's the best idea I've ever heard in my whole entire life.
And you're gonna have to excuse me because I'm getting over a cold. So
I think I'm in the middle of one.
Yeah.
I've been fighting one for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I work with kids. They're petri dishes.
yes, they are.
So
I mean, normally I don't get too sick, but when my kids started school, like first and second grade, kindergarten, I was sick constantly. They were unbelievable. All right, so we're here at the Craft Beer Cellar in Plymouth, Mass. Our impromptu studio, more or less. And we are here with Kendra. How do you pronounce your last name?
you can say either D'Angora or D'Angora.
Okay, so
either is fine.
Okay. Who is kind of an all-around artist. I was checking out your website, and when I first became aware of you was when you submitted a sculpture into our art show, and it was a really nice sculpture.
Thank you.
But then I was checking out your website, and you're kind of a jack of all trades. You paint, you draw, you do murals and sculpture and pottery. What is your I don't want to say what's your real interest. What is your favorite medium?
Clay.
Clay.
Yes.
And so, and you teach.
Yes.
So, do you have a location that you teach at?
I teach in 2 Catholic schools,
Okay.
St. Stanislaus in Fall River and St. Margaret's in Buzzards Bay, and I teach out of my studio.
And where's your studio located?
In Wareham.
In Wareham.
Mm-hmm.
And so, was clay like your first venture into art, or did you kind of start drawing? Like,
No,
what's your earliest art memory?
My earliest art memory is collecting shells and driftwood and making crafts with them.
Okay.
Because I grew up in Plymouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was in 10th grade, I used to draw a little bit. I loved horses,
Mm-hmm.
so I used to try to draw horses all the time. When I was in 10th grade, I took my first art class in school. Not that we didn't have art in elementary school, and I loved that, but my first real serious...
There's a definite different feel to it. And we had some teachers on recently, and the elementary school teacher was like, my job is to teach you how to use scissors and fold paper, and like once you kind of get to junior high school, it seems like
you get more imaginative.
Yeah.
There's more of your emotion involved,
Mm-hmm.
and I really dug it.
Yeah.
So that's my first memory, and then I started I got into the punk rock scene when I was in high school.
Okay.
And would draw portraits of Billy Idol on a regular basis.
Nice.
And
yeah.
I was a nanny for a woman who lived on my street, and I had no idea she was an art teacher until she came home one day and saw me drawing this portrait, and she said, "Did you realize I'm an art teacher?" And I said, "No, I did not."
Oh, that's cool.
So she guided me, and she was a jewelry maker, and she was sort of a jack of all trades as well. So she really taught me how to draw the human form well enough that I could draw anything else. And so my first actual medium that I was serious about was pencil.
Yeah.
Graphite pencil.
Mhm.
And then I went to high school and took my first clay class, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like everyone kind of starts with pencil because it's the easiest
Sure.
to come
Yeah.
across. And I checked out your website, and you have some really nice portraits on there, and you have a Stevie
Thank
Ray
you.
Vaughan, which I totally dug. Big
Yeah.
Stevie Ray Vaughan fan.
I was
Yeah.
devastated when he passed away.
But you're a punk rock kid.
Yes.
So Billy Idol, like, who else were you into?
The Clash, definitely.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I've never drawn Joe Strummer. I don't know why. He's a huge love of mine. Musically, I have to admit that I like Depeche Mode and stuff. You know, my sister hated them. I used to play them all the time. Simple Minds. Big, huge Bowie fan.
Yeah.
Old Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, that sort of thing. My dad was really into music, so we grew up with the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all sorts of things like the Rolling Stones and Jay Giles and things like that. So we had a wide variety of music that we were introduced to. So even as a punk rocker, I still like Joe Walsh and things that...
So you didn't just kind of pigeonhole yourself into one...
No, no.
Which seems to be the same with your art.
Yeah.
You know, because you kind of, I don't want to say all over the road, but you do a lot of different things. So at what point did you decide that it was going to become your career? I mean, was it that early on that you just was like, this is what I want to do?
Well, when I was a punk rocker in high school, I thought that I would move to London and be a DJ because that was a huge thing.
Right, yeah.
And then I realized that was not a very big, huge money maker. So then I decided I really wanted to go to art school. And oddly enough, I had also become very intertwined with the exchange student program in my high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was really excited about the idea of us traveling and going all over the world. And so she found this school for being a stewardess. And at the time, I had a wide mohawk and dog collars and things like that. And this woman came to our house, and I was accepted, and my mother was thrilled beyond belief. And she said, "What do you think?" And
So you were going to school to be a stewardess?
That's what my mom wanted.
Okay.
And after the lady left, my mother was super excited, and she said, "Well, what do you think?" You know, and I said, "Mom, I really want to go to art school." And she was devastated.
Yeah.
Because she thought that I would never be able to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that that's a difficult and
It
very
is.
competitive
Yeah.
field to be in. And so I went to Mass Art,
Mm-hmm.
and I got immediately accepted. And we had to choose a major after our first year. And I had drawn my whole second part of my life.
Right.
And I thought if I had chosen illustration as a major, that they might take away certain things that I was excited about with drawing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be afraid to draw when I got out of college. And I had a feeling that that might happen. So, and I had a huge love for clay. I had a great high school clay teacher. He was wonderful. We're still friends. And so I went into the ceramics department. Another funny little tidbit is I never thought I needed math or science when I was in high school. I thought I was going to art school.
There's a lot of high school students that are like, when am I ever going to use this?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when I got into the ceramics department, it was a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Because it's all math and science.
Really?
It is. Because you have to know what things that are mined from the earth can intertwine with each other or be combined,
Mm-hmm.
and what properties they have and how they work. And you have to know percentages, because a slight difference in percentage can change a glaze or a clay or
Yeah.
anything like that. So it was kind of like a slap in the back of my head saying, you know, you did need math and science in order to get into this department, but I kind of punched my way through it.
Yeah. Was math and science something you struggled with, or?
It just wasn't interesting
Yeah,
to
it
me.
just
So
wasn't.
Mentally, yeah, because as soon as my teachers would start talking about formulas or whatever, my brain was outside the window and doing something else. So in that aspect, if I had tried harder, it wouldn't have been that difficult.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, I'm trying to picture you with a mohawk.
It wasn't a thin mohawk, it was
it's
actually
like,
kind of wide and shaved hair and very Billy Idol looking, so tail, the whole thing.
I actually saw Billy Idol, the tour after he got in his motorcycle accident.
What year was that?
Oh, God. I was in high school, 89, 90, maybe?
Was he at the Worcester Pavilion?
No, it was at Great Woods, or whatever they're calling it now.
Yeah, I still refer to it as
Yeah,
Great Woods.
I still call it Great Woods.
Yeah.
And I had friends who wanted to go because Billy Idol, one of my favorite bands, Faith No More, was opening up.
That's a great band, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it was probably my freshman year, so it was probably like 89, maybe the summer of 89. And so they were opening. Billy Idol was there. He was still using a cane and whatnot.
Oh.
And it poured, and we had lawn seats.
Oh.
But I mean, we were high school students, so no one gave a shit. It was a great time. But he puts on a great show. Have you seen him?
Yes.
Yeah.
My uncle took my friends and I to see him at the Worcester Pavilion, and I think I was 16 at the time, and I acted like such a girl that he told me he would never take me to another concert.
He like screaming.
I was screaming and crying and touching his leg, and it was.
You must have good seats then.
I was right in the front row.
Oh, we had horrible seats.
Yeah, no, I was super excited.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's awesome. So.
Other bands I liked, just because, being questioned like that, I can't.
Oh, no, it's like I said, it's
off the top of my head,
wherever this goes, it goes.
Bauhaus, Tones on Tail, Susie and the Banshees.
Susie and the Banshees.
My sister and I saw Susie and the Banshees, and it was a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
Bauhaus I never got into.
They're a bit of an acquired taste.
Yeah.
Not that.
I had my college roommate loved them.
Yeah.
And he was like a big Susie Sue fan. So.
My brother-in-law said, out of all my friends, you and someone else are the only two people that liked Tones on Tail, which was an offshoot of Bauhaus.
Oh.
They were, Daniel Ash was the guitarist or the bass player, I can't remember.
I don't know, I've heard the name.
But he did Tones on Tail, and then he did Love and Rockets.
Okay, yeah.
So, but Tones on Tail was right in the middle.
Yeah.
Very eerie.
Was that like your kind of favorite of the three?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were spooky.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a college roommate that was. So I graduated in '93, so I was pretty much heavy into Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, stuff like that. And when
Soundgarden, I love.
Yeah. And but it's weird. I like their stuff before they kind of broke.
Exactly. Exactly. Like Temple of the Dog, that was a great.
Yeah, and their I think it's Louder Than Love album was really good. But my college roommate was I went to Montserrat.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was into Bauhaus and Susie Sue and My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult and a bunch of bands that he introduced me to, and some of them I still listen to, but
some of them you don't.
Some of them I don't. He loved Typo Negative, and I never got that. But so big music fan. How much of an effect do you feel music or an influence does music have on your work?
Quite a bit, actually. I went through a period when I was in college where I was exposed to Steve Tibbets and world music because I hung out with a lot of Berkeley students.
Okay.
And there was a span of time. At that time, I had taken a watercolor class at Mass Art, and it really excited me. So I was dealing with a lot of color and shape and mixing and going crazy that way. So I did some huge paintings back then, all listening to Steve Tibbets. And there's no vocals in his music at all. And he plays electric guitar and has sitar and congas and things like that. Yep. So it was a really beautiful integration of sounds. And that kind of took me into a different world. And I used to get lost in that.
You ever heard of Dr. Didge?
No.
He is, I'm sure I'm screwing this up, I want to say he was an MIT professor, and he it was a three-piece band. There was a guitar player, a drummer, and himself that played didgeridoo.
Okay.
And really interesting you know, not the kind of thing I listen to all the time, but, you know.
Kind of far out.
Exactly. It's very different, so.
I used to listen to music a lot in the studio, especially when I was working at Mass Art after I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
But I found audiobooks, so that is what I play in the studio.
That's what you play in the studio?
Yeah.
See, my thing now is podcasts. It's strange. But I started because I have a desk job that I'm on a computer most of the day, and I don't really have to socialize with people, so I just put a podcast on and kind of makes the day go by.
Yeah, it's great to be read to.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I think this is my 4th time listening to Game of Thrones. Huge Harry Potter fan. Decided 2 years ago to investigate classics I've never read. So I was listening to Crime and Punishment and the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
Really got into that stuff because I never read those things.
Right.
You know, so, and I love murder mysteries and things like that. So I get lost in my studio listening to stories.
Nice.
Which is really fun.
Yeah. And so it's funny you mentioned Game of Thrones and Harry Potter.
I'm such a nerd about
please. But I noticed on your website that a lot of your stuff has kind of a fantasy feel. There's dragons and fairies and so maybe mermaid. Something
maybe
looks mermaid-ish.
Mermaid-ish.
So, like, is that an influence that's always been in your work? Or
I think so. I think so. I've always been. My mom is an astrologer, so we've always had that influence in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And fairies and creepy trees and
Was there like a love of Tolkien or?
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I was younger, there was a kid's version of Tolkien. I wouldn't say it's a kid's version, but it was very close to Tolkien's stories. It was Lloyd Alexander did a series of books called the Prydain Chronicles.
Yeah.
Did you read those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He reads
loves
everything.
those. I went bananas. It was awesome. I have the set still in my house. And so, just things that take you far away. You're not in this world.
So what's your favorite of that genre?
Favorite author?
No, just favorite story.
Favorite Prydain Chronicles, I think.
Yeah.
Because Tolkien is great, but he's so wordy that you get a little bit like, what did he just say? Either you go back a few pages or you rewind the audiobook or whatever.
Yep.
But lately I have to say that I'm totally into Game of Thrones. Tyrion Lannister is my absolute favorite. I've been going to the library and getting the DVD so I can catch up on the show itself, because I have students that go, Miss D, how can you not be watching the show and you've read all the books?
How old are your students?
I teach pre-K through 8, so I have students that are, I know.
I'm like, wait,
students that have graduated. Josh is now, I think, in 10th grade.
Okay.
10th or 11th.
All right.
So I'm actually surprised his mom lets him watch them. They're pretty graphic.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
they're very graphic,
Yeah.
actually. And I even said to him, does your mom know you're watching these things? Does she know what's in it?
does she know?
Does she know
not
what
that
these-
you're watching it. Does she know what it is?
But he's such a good kid, that I'm sure that she trusts him. But, as far as my other students, there's only a few other students that say, I can't believe you haven't watched the show yet. But it's mainly my older.
Yeah.
Because I teach older folks as well in my studio. So,
Nice.
But I'm very impressed with how closely they stick with the books. I don't know if you guys been
I've
following
never
them.
read the books, and I'm about a season behind on the show.
What season are you on?
Oh God.
I just started 5. Have you been watching them?
Trying to remember what the last thing I saw
Do you like
was.
them?
I don't recall. Because it's been a while. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I find
Just tell me what's going on with Cersei, and I'll be able to tell you what season you're in.
Okay, see, I'm really bad with the names. The older Stark daughter
Sansa.
just started her goth phase, and they threw some woman down a hole.
Oh,
Little
all right.
finger
You're in season 4.
Okay.
You're in
All right,
season
so
4.
I'm behind. Yeah.
Not that far, though.
Okay.
Not that far.
But I really enjoy it. I just find it very hard to keep track. First of all, I'm terrible with names. But I find it hard to keep track of all the characters, because there's so many characters in that story.
even listening to them, it's hard to see, who is Roose Bolton and who is, Lord Jorah Mormont. And I have to, it's the main characters that, of course, we all recognize.
Right.
But
and then they, every once in a while, will change character. Who was the kind of smarmy one that they changed after one season? Love interest of Daenerys.
Oh, I know who we're talking about. I forgot his name.
Drogo?
No, the new one.
Later on.
See, I don't know his name either. I can't tell you his name.
But
I know his
completely
name.
threw me because they changed the actor and.
They did.
Yeah,
It's a totally
different person. And I was just like, who the hell is this guy?
The guy with the long hair.
See, I feel bad because honestly, the second guy is a flat out better actor.
Oh, absolutely.
But the first guy pulled off this smug douchiness that you really need for the character.
Yeah.
He nailed it. Like the other guy, I like him. I'm not supposed to like him.
No, you're not supposed to like him. You're supposed to
it's just
dislike
one of those
him.
like. It took me like a good 2 episodes to realize it was supposed to be the same guy.
Oh, now that's gonna drive me nuts.
I can't remember.
Don't
It
worry.
begins with a D.
Dario.
Thank you.
Dario.
Yes.
Huh? I would never got that. But like I said,
read the books a lot.
It's been a while since I've seen it. So what other? So obviously, fantasy and music are a big part of your work. Is there any other influences that?
Nature.
Nature.
Yes. Plants, the way things grow.
Yeah.
Trees, color. I live in a bird sanctuary and an estuary and it's conservation land. So actually, I can't stand the town of Wareham, but I love the area where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And I live on a river.
Yep.
So my porch faces the river. My studio faces the river.
Oh, nice.
The upstairs space. So it's great. And all of that fuels the passion that I have. I've always been very interested in collecting organic, like, shells and weird rocks and things like that. And I have a whole shelf full of these things, and that's what creates the texture in my pottery. They needed a job.
Oh, I see. So you use it kind of like as stamps, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I press them into the clay, and I kind of manipulate it and rip it apart and put them back together, that sort of thing. But I've always been interested in nature, very much so.
And so now you teach out of your studio, and I know friends of mine, children have taken
Roman and Rachel. They're two, Paul and Cora.
Yes.
They come every other week.
Oh, they still come.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Well, they took this week off, but they come on a regular basis.
Nice.
And they're both lovely, but Paul has this. They both love art, but Paul really has a passion for the wheel.
Yeah.
And he's really come along. Actually, they're both really good at the wheel.
Nice. I mean, I didn't spend more than, half an hour, but I found that very difficult to. If it's not centered, it's not going to work.
Right. He still has me center it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I'm going to have him, I'm going to make him center it himself.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'll center it for him, and he comes up with his shape after that.
So now, the classes you teach out of your studio, is it mostly kids, or is it all ages?
It's a nice mix.
Yeah.
It's a nice mix. I have older people. I have my friend Linda, who I went to high school with, and she found me on Facebook and initially hired me to teach her daughter, who was then in high school,
Excuse me.
and now is going to BU for theater.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And one day when Linda was dropping Brittany off, I said, you can play with some clay too, and that kind of took off.
Yeah.
So Linda comes on a regular basis as well. Lately, she's the only adult I have, but I used to teach at Council on Aging, so there's all kinds of ages that I can teach.
Yeah. Do you also teach here at the Artist Guild?
I did.
Yeah.
I did up until this year, and then I decided it was time to go.
Yeah.
I had been there since 2007. I had a pretty strong following for the kids' class, but I found myself, because I work in 2 schools and I try to get my artwork done, I found that my artwork was taking a huge back step because I had so many other obligations and driving a half an hour, and there were certain inconveniences that kept happening in the clay room down there without contact, without letting me know that these things would happen, that eventually I said, I think it's just time to go.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's a great thing to touch on, is that balance between your work and your work. Because I myself struggle with that between the podcasts and the classes we run and the art shows and whatnot. How do you work out a balance for yourself? Do you like set aside like, oh, Tuesday is my day to work on my work, or like how do you work that up?
I try really hard. At the moment, I'm supporting my household.
Yeah.
So, and I own a house.
Yeah.
So anything can come up. Like, oh, we need a new post for the porch or whatever. And I'm also a gardener. So, and I work a lot.
Yeah.
And I get angry when I don't have time for my studio work. And I do set aside time. Like yesterday I said, okay, I'm going to have all day to do this. But I also like to work out.
Yeah.
And I work out on a regular basis, and sometimes I get carried away, and then suddenly it's 12 o'clock, and I'm like, damn it, I wanted to get downstairs by this time,
Yeah.
So life tends to throw a little curveball, but I usually try to set aside at least a half an hour in the morning with coffee to do a painting, to work on a painting.
Yeah.
I'm working on something for my brother. When I assign projects for my kids at school,
Mm-hmm.
I'll work on something. I did illustrations for 2 books that were published within the last 6 years.
Oh, nice. What kind of books?
Children's books.
Children's books? What are the names?
3 Ducks and a Goose.
Okay.
And Matilda. And 3 Ducks and a Goose was originally, it was based on an Irish tune that my friend Helen's boyfriend, Brendan Tonra, had written on the fiddle,
Mm-hmm.
no words, about a day when he was a little boy living in Ireland when they had dirt floors and the whole bit. And then he brought the tune to Helen, and then Helen decided that they needed to make this into a children's book. So they added words to it. And then they did a version of the song with her playing piano and him playing the fiddle, and then they hired a dancer who did step dancing.
Yep.
And she wore tap shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their percussion for that song.
Okay.
But then after they had put all the words to the song, they wanted a version of children singing the song.
Mm-hmm.
So at St. Margaret's, I wanted to incorporate my kids.
Yep.
And they had a choir, so I went to the music teacher and I said, would you be willing to participate in this? And he was very willing. And it was difficult for him because the way that Brendan had set up the song, the way he wrote it,
Yeah.
the notes were different than Chris had known. Like, the music teacher said, I can't read the way that he put this together. So they had to really work together
Yeah.
to get it to a point where he could get the kids to sing the song to the tune
Right.
that Brendan had written. So in that particular book, there's a CD at the end of it featuring my kids.
Oh, nice. So it's
yeah.
both the book and the song?
Mhm.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then Matilda is about a donkey who was abused by her master, and a little girl buys her, and then she ends up in a very happy life. And so it was really great because I did most of the illustrations during school,
Yeah.
and the kids got to watch me.
Oh, so they got to kind of see the behind the scenes. And,
Yeah,
oh,
they got
that's
to watch
cool.
me do the illustrations.
Yeah.
So I tend to work on things in front of them.
Yeah.
And I love this. I'm like, Miss D'Angora, you're such a good artist. And of course it inflates the ego. So I try to incorporate any minute I can. Like, I'll usually leave a painting or a 2-dimensional project set up on my kitchen table.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I have extra minutes, I go downstairs and work on stuff in the studio. And it's mainly pottery at the moment.
Yeah.
I definitely need to work more on another sculpture. I haven't done a sculpture in a while, but
Well, it sounds like you got a ton of free time, so I don't know.
Right. But usually weekends lately. That's another reason I took the guild off my schedule, because I wasn't getting any work done.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I come from Wareham.
Yeah.
The drive down Federal Furnace Road is the most irritating drive, I have to say, because you always get behind somebody who's going 20 miles an hour, and it takes you forever,
Yep.
so, but I try. I
Yeah.
try it, like, on weekends to get my butt down there and get
Nice.
it done. Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that I struggle with, is trying to find time to
I'm
do
glad to
something
hear
that
that.
I want to do, and not that is for something else or working on something else.
And God forbid I have to vacuum because I get very upset. You know what I mean? Like, you have to clean the house and do the dishes and whatever. And luckily, my partner is really good about he does the laundry and he cleans the house, but he doesn't do the deep clean stuff.
Yeah.
So all the cobwebs that are hanging out in the corners.
Well, my house, I every day off I've had since probably the end of the summer, it's rain. So the backyard really needs to be mowed, but you get those days off and you're like, come on, please rain, please rain. Please rain. I know.
I know. Studio day.
Yeah.
Studio day, please.
So, but yeah, I think that's a struggle with anyone who's busy, is how to kind of get that time for themselves. But it sounds like you have a system.
I'm trying.
You're trying?
I'm trying.
So, how long have you, once you came out of Mass Art, did you go right into teaching, or did you?
No, I kind of really fell into that. When I got out of Mass Art, I was working for Charette.
Okay, yeah. The art store.
Yes,
Yeah,
and that was awesome.
Yep.
That was one of my favorite jobs.
Yeah.
And you could get discounts on art supplies and whatever else. And they had everything. I even thought that they were better than Utrecht because you could get anything.
Yeah.
And then I ended up at a location that was based out of an architectural firm.
Okay.
And then I ended up at a gallery. Right on what's the road that's parallel to Summer Street? I can't remember the name of it, but it's right in that whole area down by the wharf, and it was called Art Smart, and they were two trust fund babies that had gone to Mass Art, and it turned out to be the worst job I've ever had because they were just awful to work for.
Yeah.
While I was there, I was part of a clay cooperative that was right around the corner from where I lived in Alston. And it was called Feet of Clay. And I met some really great people. A few of them I'm still really close to. And it was there that one of the women there, her son was in a preschool that was located in Brookline. And she said, they're looking for a substitute teacher. Are you interested? She says, it's indefinite. And I said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. So
to get out of the gallery job?
To get out of the gallery job. And I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I was the oldest cousin on both sides, and I babysat my whole life.
Right.
So I thought, this is perfect. And I love working with children. So I got into the preschool.
Better you than me.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they drive me nuts, but I love them all. And I have no kids of my own. And they always say, Miss D, do you have any kids? And I say, I have 400. I don't need any more.
Right, yeah. I can leave you all here.
I get exit stage left, But, so while I was there, one of the teachers said, would you be interested in going to school and getting certified for this? And I said, yes. And they paid for it.
Oh, that's cool.
So while I was there, I went to Aquinas College.
Yeah.
And I got my certification for lead teacher and infant toddler in preschool, and I was there for 9 years, and then I met an old boyfriend. We got reunited, and he had a house in Wareham, and he said, are you interested? And by that time I wanted to get out of the city. It was just overdone. So I came to this area, and I worked in a preschool in Wareham, and it turned out to be awful. And so I didn't do that for a while, and I ended up doing waitressing my first time, and loved and hated it. Yeah. It was in a diner, the one that's on 28, the Mill Pond Diner in Wareham, right by the company store. I don't know if you're familiar.
No. Oh, wait. Yeah, I think I do know that one.
It's a true 60s diner.
Yeah. I know that one.
Yeah.
Never been there, but I know of it.
Yeah, don't worry. You're not missing anything.
I'm not missing anything?
No. So I did that for a while, and in the meantime, I started working for Council on Aging's, and my friend, Melissa Kenny, she was the coordinator for the children's classes out of the Guild.
Okay.
And at that time, they were at Cordage Park. So I went and had an interview with her, immediately got the job. So alongside with waitressing, I was teaching art. And then I did a few stints at, Marion Art Center and I got a grant and did a free clay program for the kids in Wareham at the Wareham Free Library.
Yeah.
So I really started working a lot more in the teaching field.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, my neighbor said, you know, St. Margaret's is looking for an aftercare teacher. So I went and I got the job there, just doing aftercare.
Yeah.
And then I got there early one day, and the art teacher was cleaning up, so I helped her.
Yeah.
And it was a total ulterior motive. And we got to chatting.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, I'm in graduate school and I'm getting my master's in art therapy. I'm leaving this year. She said, the kids love you. Would you be? Yeah, I said yes. So right away I said yes, and that's how I got it.
Right.
And then I was doing that for a few years, and because of budget, they cut my hours.
Yeah.
So I was there for 35 hours. I was the librarian and the art teacher, and they cut my hours only to 8 hours as being the art teacher. And that's when my principal came to me and said, Jean Willis from St. Stanislaus is looking for a part-time art teacher in Fall River. And so I went and I got the job there. So that's how I got in.
So now you teach them both.
Now I'm teaching both. So within the two schools, I'm considered full-time because it's under the Diocese of Fall River.
Oh, both schools are...
Yes.
Oh, I see.
So even though I'm part-time in both schools, I get full-time benefits.
Full-time because you work full-time for that one.
Yes. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get your summers off.
Without pay.
Yeah.
So this summer, worst summer ever. Like, I used to do babysitting for the summer,
Yeah.
and I got no bites on that this year. But I've been gardening for a friend of mine in Onset for 2 years because physically she can't do it anymore. And
Yeah.
she's a former landscaper. So I've been working for her, and she's taught me quite a bit. So I put a little ad on Facebook with my parents
Yep.
and got 8 bites immediately. The worst summer ever to first start gardening for a full-time job.
Yeah, because there was no rain whatsoever.
No rain, super hot. I couldn't believe it,
Yeah.
and it was really exhausting. And my own garden, which I love to
Yep.
improve every year, really took a back step.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, that's trying to
I
find
know.
time to do your thing. You know?
Right,
That's
the carpenter syndrome.
So, where did you first find Inebri-art? Inebri-art. Like, how did you come
Rachel.
across? Oh, Roman and Rachel?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Rachel is the one that tagged me in everything,
Yep.
and she's the one that told me about your Mondays.
Yes, the lifetime. Which you claim to be coming.
No, I know, and I knew you were going to say that. I work late on Mondays,
Yeah.
so sometimes it's
Oh, it
difficult.
happens. And we have people that come to every single one. Then we have some people that stop in when they can make it. It's a lot of fun, and the crazy thing is it's getting pretty big. Like
You were saying, that's
we were talking
excellent.
last night about like how we can fit more people in there.
Well, it was interesting. I thought of you this weekend because my sister Jennifer, who's in 3 bands, and one of the bands has my little sister as her backup vocal.
This is a punk band.
It is a girls doo-wop band.
Oh,
It's called
interesting.
Jenny D and the Delinquents, but Jen had also been in the Downbeat 5, which is garage punk
Nice.
kind of
Okay.
thing, and the Dents, which is also very punkish. But this is a little bit more 60s doo-wop with the hand movements and
Yeah.
a whole bit. Jen's another one that goes into a million different directions, and she was in hair
Yeah.
this weekend at Once Somerville. And so while I was at Once Somerville, they had these ads for Life Drive.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought of you
Huh.
right away. It was really interesting. $8
Yep.
to stop in, and
It's funny. I wonder if there is another group who I won't bother mentioning them, who is worldwide and does Life Drive. And initially, I would go to their events in Boston and Providence, and I decided that like we were gonna try and get a branch here in Plymouth. So I contacted the main organization and said, you know, I'd like to start a branch here in Plymouth. And they said, no, because it's within 50 miles of Boston and that's like their cutoff. And I'm like, that really depends on where you're standing in Plymouth. Because it can be 30 miles from Boston or 70 miles from Boston.
that's right.
Right. So the woman there was like, oh, well, if you can get the sign off on the girl who runs the Boston branch. I'll approve it. And I'm like, okay. So I sent her a very nicely worded email. I'm like, listen, we're only going to try and draw from, Cape and Plymouth area. We're not going to try and encroach on you. And she sent me back an email that said, no, I get people from the Plymouth area. And I'm like, I know, I don't want to go to Boston anymore. And so I moped for about a day, and then I'm like, you know what, we're just going to do it on our own. And that's how the whole thing started.
That's great.
Yeah, so we've done really well since then.
I had a friend who, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was in Central Square, and he organized a nude life drawing session.
Well, we've been talking about doing that, just trying to find a location. Like, we just don't do it at the New World because just anybody can wander back there.
Oh, of course.
And,
absolutely.
We always joke that the owner won't let us do nude unless he's there to watch. But, we're just trying to find a location, so it's something we're kind of working on. And we even kind of kicked around the idea of starting a Boston branch, but then it's like getting in there and doing it, and it's a logistics thing. But it's grown exponentially. This year specifically is just really kicked off.
Well, and again, a lot of people are artists in this area, and they've been starving for something like that. When I first heard about that, I was super excited about it, and I thought, I don't want to drive to Boston either.
Right.
That's a hell of a drive.
Right, and this is kind of in everyone's backyard, and there's a great art community here, and this year was just kind of that tipping point, which I knew was always going to come. I knew there was a strong art community here, and I'm like, it's just going to take the right person to kind of hear about it and kind of spread the word, and that happened January this year. And it happened through a friend of mine went to get a facial, and she was talking with a girl who was an artist and now a friend of ours, and kind of mentioned it, and she mentioned to a friend who mentioned it to damn near everybody, and this is kind of how it spread. It just kind of steamrolled from there. Now it gets to the point where people show up and like, how'd you hear about it? And they'll be like, oh, so and so told me. I'm like, I don't know who that person is.
Right, and it's good that you're doing that
yeah.
on Facebook too.
Yep.
I find that even though I can get really annoyed with Facebook, it's also a wonderful way for you guys to advertise that, you know?
And that's pretty much, we have our website, but the Facebook is really the primary thing. And
for that reason, I like Facebook.
Yeah.
That and the fact that you can visit with your relatives that were far away and check out their photos and go, all right, everybody's good.
Yeah.
I
just don't read stuff on the timeline. It's usually bullshit.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this election to be over. Oh, my God.
Yes, it has been pretty brutal.
Yeah, and and the other thing too is like the people that post, oh, today I got up, I showered, I shaved. I'm like, you know what? That's way too much information
There
for my head.
is, and I feel like the stuff that I would like to know, people don't post that much.
That's right.
This weird thing happened, or I'm going to this cool event, you should check it out. Those are the things I want to hear. I don't want to hear that your sister gave you crap because you got her birthday card to her a day late, or just the nonsense that's on Facebook is ridiculous.
It is, and there was one post from somebody from high school, and she was literally like day by day got the play-by-play of her cold, and that's when I was like, you know what, this is ridiculous.
And then I find it kind of irritating because I'm sure you're in the same boat, where it's like I would love to have the time,
right?
Just to sit and go,
like,
guess what I had for lunch?
And
it's just like I have trouble. Like, we have life drawing in what, a week and a couple days?
Yes.
Yeah. A week and a couple days, and I still have to create an event because I'm like, I gotta get that done this weekend. And it's just like, people will post 9 pictures of what they had for lunch and the fight they had with their boyfriend. And
or the quips, the quotes.
some of those are funny.
Some of those are funny,
Yeah.
and I love the potty mouth ones because they're hysterical.
Potty mouth ones.
Yeah, and I can't even quote them right now, but they're usually like, I don't know, something,
Yeah, they're memes.
Exactly. Or like, do you remember this? And they'll post something like an appliance from a long time ago. Like somebody had posted an old hairdryer.
Yeah.
from a long time ago, the kind that looked like a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I know what that is. You know, that sort of thing is really cool.
The ones that I can do without which Walking Dead character are you? What word describes you
what
best?
princess are you?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't care, you know.
So I do find those kind of, I'm not saying I've never done them, but
that and the questionnaires.
Yeah.
Like I have friends that go, you know, if you love me, you'll fill this out.
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
copy
yeah,
and
yeah,
paste,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, I love you, but that's enough.
Yeah, but yeah. I've been getting those in my messages lately.
Yes.
Some
There's a
sort
surge
of,
of that
like,
going on.
purple
lately.
flowers or
Almost
something.
Right.
I get from like 3,
I got that this morning.
Yeah, from like 3 people, and I'm like,
I know.
I can honestly say I looked at it, went, and like I didn't even read it, so I don't even know what it's about. I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I sent it back to the person that sent me and I wrote, "Love you, have a good day."
Yeah.
And that was it.
It does. And the funny thing is, Facebook is getting older.
Yes, it
like
is.
Like my kids don't have Facebook. They don't want Facebook. They're
No,
not
they want
interested
the
in Facebook.
Instagram. They
The
want
Instagram,
the Twitter.
yep.
The Snapchat.
Snapchat and
And they
Kick.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
That's another name.
They'll go, Misty, you need to be on these things. I'm like, no, I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time to do what I want to do.
Exactly.
I don't want to be locked on the computer.
Yeah. I like when you can post on one and it posts to the other, which Facebook and Twitter are pretty good about. So like,
I see.
we can post to the Inebri-art Facebook page and it posts to the Inebri-art Twitter at the same time. So it makes life a little easier. So, kind of got off topic there.
It's okay.
So, your piece at the art show, I'm not going to lie.
I didn't win any
Scared
prizes. I was so sad.
But you were in the voting.
I was.
Oh, absolutely.
That's cool.
But your piece scared the ever-loving shit out of me.
Did it? Oh, yeah, because you had to
I
read it.
was petrified of break. But how long... So... I can't really do it justice explaining to our listeners, but it was like a magician's hat with like a head coming out of the middle, and the head was kind of cut off at the top and hollow on the inside, and there was a hand like reaching out from inside the hat.
He was emerging.
Yes, yeah, emerging.
He was emerging.
How long did that take you?
Well, because I work full time, that took a year to make.
Wow.
And actually, I had done one before then. He's the Mad Hatter, really.
Okay.
And the first Mad Hatter that I did, actually, if I put him on the table, and I know that you won't be able to tell by my description, he was like 2.5 feet high.
Oh, wow.
And he was just like the one in the book, and he was going like this. And it was about my introduction to Wareham.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my sculptures have some sort of personal message in there,
and
I never know what it is until they're done. I just do them. And the reason for the broken heads is the first...
Because there's a few of your pieces like that.
Yes, the one with the bricks is the first one.
Okay.
And it was.
And then there's kind of like a demon devil looking one.
He's my baby.
I like that one a lot. That was pretty cool.
He's actually fire.
Yeah.
And there's a good story behind him as well. But the first one was the one with the bricks, and I had gone to a workshop in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was a sculpture class.
Okay.
And I went there by myself. I had just gotten divorced, and I needed to, light a fire.
Yep.
And so off I went, and I did one like it. He had given us 3 different stages of clay: bone dry, leather hard, slip, and something else. I can't remember. And so with the leather hard, I made bricks. And I did the same thing for the one that you see in the website. Those bricks are actually bricks. And they were bricked up. So I did the whole process of bricking up that neck. And it had a lot to do with, especially women. You graduate high school, you go to college, you get your degree, you get married, you have children, you have the white house with the picket fence and the whole thing. And somehow, even though you aspire to those things, in some way they fall apart.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of times, from my experience anyways, that kind of Americana dream isn't really what makes you happy.
No. It isn't. And I can't even tell you how many girlfriends that I have that are so unhappy that they made that choice.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that happened was that while I was married, I was doing South End Open Studios, and I met this artist who I fell in love with, and he was amazing in my eyes. It turned out he was a total tool, but anyway.
Happens.
It happens, right? So he was a total distraction and ended up being a catalyst for me leaving my unhappy marriage. But that particular sculpture, the reason that his head is open is because this guy had a mask on that I wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying all these shiny, beautiful things to me.
Yeah.
And the reason for no ears, because I was half listening to my family, just listening to the things that I wanted to hear, and he had that shiny lining on the inside.
Yeah.
That he was, and that's why his lips are also shiny, because all that shiny stuff was coming in my direction, and I believed every syllable of it.
Yeah.
But it was a mask. It wasn't real. And that's why it's all cracked and everything else. And for me, he's the most successful because that really depicted that moment. And my sister came into my studio and she said, "Ken, did you really mean for that to look like Tyson?" And I said, "No, because the whole time I'm just making his face."
Tyson as in the boxer?
Tyson as in this guy that I fell in love with.
Okay.
Right? He was an artist from Kansas or whatever. So that to me was really awesome. That was an awesome moment because I didn't intentionally make it look like the guy that I was obsessed with. It just happened.
Yep.
And so after that, then I moved to Wareham. Well, I did another one in between. It was the one with the hands, the one that was the wall piece.
Is that the one that's
kind of thing?
Is that the one that's like attached to what's like an old fence?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
That was about the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that actually was the hands and the face were taken from a painting that he had done.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in such a lie about his life. He had 3 kids with this woman, and he was completely cheating on her. Not only with me, long distance, but he had girlfriends on the side right here. And so anyway, so that's the reason for the heads. But the one that was in your show had everything to do with moving to Wareham.
Yeah.
And how I felt about that. I had lived in Boston for 15 years, and when I started waitressing, I was horrified by the mentality at some of the locals. You know, how they talked about women, people of other color, that sort of thing. And then what happened because of being a waitress, I kind of hid my feelings about all that, but I got jobs for portraits, and I got really good networking involved in that. You know, like if I ever needed a secondhand car, I went to Mike in Wareham, Mike Murphy. I was just losing that for a second. Or if I
Mike Murphy.
If I need my septic pump, then I go to Smitty.
Yeah.
You know, so like all these locals who I was horrified by also became really close to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of the first sculpture I did of the Mad Hatter completely blew up because he was wet when I fired him, and I didn't fire him slow enough.
Yeah.
And he exploded. And the only thing that was left was his head and part of his hand, which are in my garden.
Yeah.
Right? But the second one seemed to be more successful, the one that was in your show, because out of all of that craziness, what emerged was something really elegant.
Yeah.
And I've been through a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a really cool story.
Thanks.
Yeah. So one thing that we do, well, first off, we've talked a bunch about your work. Where can people see your work? Do you have a website?
Yes. arturchin.com.
Okay.
And you can email me from the website.
Okay.
But if you want to email me, it's arturchin@verizon.net.
At Verizon.net.
Or arturchin on Facebook.
Okay.
Or Kendra D'Angora on Facebook.
And so you run classes at your studio in Wareham. Do you usually run them in the evenings, I would assume? Or on the weekends?
Sometimes in the early evening. I like to keep my late evening private.
Okay.
But mainly on weekends. I keep my weekends open. So
so if people are interested, they can reach out to you through those.
That's right. And you can usually schedule, like, I don't do sessions
Yeah.
because I find them difficult. But if you say, for instance, like Rachel and Roman,
Yeah.
are scheduled every other weekend for Cora and Paul. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
So you schedule it to your convenience.
Oh, nice. So that's that. And the one other thing that we tend to do on the podcast is, what is one thing, I mean, we talked a lot about your influences, but is there one thing that may not seem like an obvious influence that has influenced your work?
Georgia O'Keeffe.
Okay.
She's one of my very favorites.
Nice.
And I don't know if you can see that in my work, but I absolutely melt.
No.
No, but I absolutely melt when I see her work.
Yeah. And what is one thing that you're watching, reading, listening to currently that you would recommend?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. I felt like I knew that was coming.
Game of Thrones and anything by Janet Ivanovich.
Who's this?
She does murder mysteries, and they're
okay.
absolutely hysterical. They're really good.
They're funny murder mysteries?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
They're
buy that.
quirky. Yeah, they're
Okay.
good.
So to do our normal thing, I will mention that we are tasting Attic and Eve's Toasted Brown Ale. It's a 7% alcohol by volume. And unfortunately, they do not include a description on the side of the can, which they normally do. But you can check them out at slumbrew.com or slumbrew on Facebook. And Kendra, I just want to say thank you. This was a lot of fun. We should have you back because I feel like there's a lot more that we can cover. We'll have to have you back at some point.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. And thanks for the tasting.
No problem.